Welcome back, my wisdom walkers. And for those of you who are new visiting my channel, Life Lessons Learned, I welcome you as well. So thank you for stopping by. Now, most of you know that I taught parenting classes at Michigan State University through their Building Strong Families program. And I met many parents, and we were able to assist them with many of the challenges that they were experiencing. Being parents, whether they were for toddlers or preschoolers or middle schoolers, all the way through adulthood. So well, I shouldn't say we, but I know for me personally, I've experienced many different challenges and obstacles that parents face, but we were always able to come up with a resolution that worked for that family unit, and they were able to move forward successfully in their relationship and their communication with their children. In this video, I'm going to talk about tips that parents who have preteens or teenagers, some things that they can do to avoid raising an adult that doesn't know how to do the adulting thing. So I'm sure many of you have seen the videos and TikToks and Facebooks and YouTube's videos where people are saying they simply were not prepared for this ever changing world. They weren't prepared for expectations on the job, and they certainly weren't prepared for, let's just face it, paying their bills on time and avoiding their phones being cut off or facing eviction. So, we're going to talk about some of the top mistakes that parents have made over the years and how you can avoid them. Now, one of the first thing I wanted to talk about, and this is again for preteens and teenagers, is begin to monitor how they develop their social skills. And by that, what you want to do is communicate with them and see how they react when they're faced with a challenge or an obstacle or a rejection or a perceived failure. Are they bitter, angry, resentful? Do they blame others for their mistakes or for their decisions? These are the things you want to look out for because you can begin to assist them to see the bigger picture. And with doing that, what you'll want to do, of course, is find out what happened and then ask them and listen to them as to what happened and what they would have done differently if they could and why. You want to ask the why question because it then gives you ideas as to their perception of the world and their perception of these coping skills. And it also helps you to be able to see where they're at in these areas so that you'll know in what ways that you can offer advice and what ways you can offer assistance. Now, we're talking about social skills, so how they interact with others and how others interact with them and how they perceive that. So, again, that's one of the areas you want to look out for. Um, when dealing and communicating and talking with your child, just so you can monitor with their developmental skills as well. And, let's just be honest, in the last 4 or 5 years with the, COVID and places being shut down and children not being able to go to school, that had an impact, sometimes a negative one, on their social development. So you want to ensure that that doesn't stay stagnated, okay? Another thing that parents, and these are some things that we all have kind of overlooked in our parenting because we're busy working and maintaining a household, that we don't think of some of these things. And some of these things may be semi-taught in the schools, but we as parents want to make sure that the lessons that are being taught are also being enhance when we're talking with our children so that we can see exactly where they're at in these areas. And the area that I'm talking about now is preparing for jobs and job interviews. Many people don't even know how to dress these days for job interviews. They're going a little bit too casual, a little bit too nightclub outing, or just like, oh, I'm here. I just want a job. So usually what you could do in these instances, and this is, of course, as I said, it's just preparing them for that. Do some mock interviews with them. Ask questions that an interviewer, um, or yeah, an interviewer would ask. I was thinking interviewer or interviewee would ask, and then see how confident your child is in answering those questions. See how confident they are with their own skill level and how they're able to sell themselves and their skills and what they can do so that they're comfortable when they are sitting across from someone else, being able to at least get through an interview without feeling like they've messed up hugely. Okay. Also, when we're talking about interviews, talk to them about what type of jobs they would like to do. Now, but sometimes teens are working, so that's always a good thing as well. So you do want them to at least look forward to having some type of a part-time job, some type of responsibility, if that's something you would like to incorporate with your teens. You know, sometimes teens like to be able to have some of their own cash or money to do some things with. So that's a good starting point to let them know the responsibilities that come with that. Now, talking about jobs and interviews, we really need to let them know how the real world works. Your boss is not going to applaud you because you happen to show up to work on time because that's an expectation. Okay. It's not something you're doing extra. And they don't expect you to miss time in your first 90 days, sometimes your first 6 months or a year, not including your sick days and holidays and things like that. But for some reason, lots of people who are complaining about adulting or that adult being an adult is hard is because they haven't been taught that there are certain expectations when you have a full-time or part-time job. And part of those expectations are showing to work on time, showing up in the proper appropriate clothing and making sure that that clothing is not stained and that kind of thing. So make sure that you're talking with them about what employers are going to be looking for and what their expectations would be, and then ask them what they picture or how they envision a certain career path or a certain job would mean for them and what they were thinking their expectations were. You may find out they're totally different, and that's fine because this is the time to find that out and to go, have that communication. Now, if your preteen or teen is doing really well and looking forward to going to college or getting a skilled trade, that is wonderful. You definitely want to talk to them about that. Go through what type of college, um, well, I shouldn't say what type, but what area the college is that they have their eye on. Make sure that they're filling out the paperwork that they would need to do to apply for those places. And if you can, make sure that they have some type of a contact at the school, like a counselor or a teacher that can assist them with some of the questions they may have and also help guide them into, depending upon whatever area they're looking to move forward in. Now, that being said, everyone knows, college isn't for everyone. And like I said, if that's the case, then what kind of skilled trade would they be looking to do? And if they are looking to do neither of those, I don't want to go to college, I don't want to do a skilled trade, I'm just going to be, then you need to ask them how are they planning on just being? Are they planning on just being in your house for the next 10 years? Are they planning on just, hanging out with friends and maybe staying with a part-time job and not really looking for responsibility or accountability? Because these are things you're going to need to know as a parent, okay? And you don't want to find out when it's time for you to, as I say, let them soar and fly with their own wings. And then you're finding out that they weren't planning on doing that for another 10 or 15 years. And remember, we as parents are not always going to be here. So it really is our responsibility to ensure that we're giving our children the tools, techniques, skills, information that they would need to become responsible, independent members of society that are able to contribute to their communities. Now, another thing that I see parents sometimes don't really speak about with their children is to let them know that there will be authoritative figures in life, whether that's a police officer, a teacher, a boss, a supervisor, a manager. There are going to be rules and regulations that they'll be expected to adhere to, and letting them know that those are just things that we all have to do. Now, if for some reason they want to live free as a bird and they don't want any of that, then you need to find out how they plan on instituting that kind of a lifestyle. People do that. They live off the grid, or they go to a different country where the responsibilities financially is a lot different than what they may be here. And you don't necessarily have to have whole apartment or luxury items or vehicles or whatever it is that they're saying society has that they don't want us, to force upon them. And all of that is fine as long as they're finding a way that they can be independent and resilient, and they're not calling you to help with their phone bill or help with their car note or assist with their car insurance. So make sure that whatever lifestyle it is that they're envisioning they want to have for themselves, have them tell you what kind of a plan they have to implement that. Because, you know, doing things and thinking things and actually being in the world are sometimes totally opposite of what we may think or what we may experience. Now, another tip that I want to share with parents is to allow your children to sometimes make their own mistakes so that they can see what the results or the outcome or the consequences are of those errors. Now, please don't say, so do we let them run out in the street in front of a car? We're not talking about that. Or, making a decision to probably associate with a group of others that don't have the same standards or ideals that you may have for them. So make sure that they are able to make some errors and then talk with them about what could have been done differently and why, and give them some input and some advice as to how they can avoid some of the same mistakes that you or I have made in our lives. Because really, that's the purpose of all of this, is for us to learn so that we can impart our wisdom to our children and help them avoid some of the minor and major mistakes that we've made in our lives. And of course, everyone's going to make their own choices as we go along, but at least we can say that we've stepped up to our parental role and we've done the things that we could do to assist them to avoid major mistakes and also allow them to be able to live their lives and make the decisions that they're going to make in their lives. Now, I talk about consequences and rewards, and that could be with anything, whether it's with sports or problems that they're having in school or issues that they're facing with their friends or relatives, um, or anything that's going on in the community. Make sure that they understand that with some decisions we make, we can have big time rewards or long term consequences. And it's up to them to look at that bigger picture and make a decision based on the information that you guys can come up with to benefit them. So these are just some of the things that many parents have. I'm saying many parents. There are some of these things that I don't think I did with my girls. Now they're all self sufficient, independent young women. But as far as, well, I didn't really talk to them about how to conduct themselves during an interview, because during the times that they were growing up, they actually had courses in their school that talked to them about interviewing and jobs and things like that. And then all of my girls worked when they were in their teens. So they worked at 15, 16, 17. So they were familiar with working and having managers and supervisors and being told what to do. before they got out into the real world. Now, another thing that is really amazing that a lot of people don't realize is we don't tell our kids that what they make is not what they take. So some people are very excited when they get to be an adult and get a real job and they find out that what they're making is not what they get to keep because of taxes. And we are one society that are taxed to the hilt. And it's one thing to say, I make $2,000 a week and I bring home 1,200. So when you start seeing all of the state tax, the federal tax, the medical tax, the health tax, the this tax, the that tax, that everybody wants a piece of the tax, it can be a shock to many people. And they're like, no one told me that I would have to pay all of these taxes and why am I working and that kind of thing. So make sure you talk with your kids about what they make versus what they'll actually take and that they can only balance their budget on what they actually bring home. So that let them be sure that you tell them that there's a difference between their gross and their actual take home pay. And that can be, like I said, a culture shock for many people. And with my girls, because they were already working and everything, they understood that. They didn't like it, less just like the rest of us, but what are you going to do? And of course, if people are thinking of doing, if your children are thinking of going into their own business and not having a boss, then of course, what kind of a business plan do they have? What kind of funds do they have to start up that business, or who could they go to for business loans and things like that? It doesn't matter what route our children take; they're going to have to pay bills, have something where they're getting paid, or secure some type of an income. Um, to maintain whatever type of lifestyle they would like to maintain. But you want to make sure that you prepared them for real jobs, real interviews, real income, how to have coping skills, how to face challenges and obstacles, and how to do so in a way that they're not feeling bitter, resentful, or blaming someone else for the choices that they've made. These are just basic tips I wanted to share. As I said, I taught parenting classes, so a lot of things that I was teaching, I was actually implementing within my own family, and that worked out very well for me and with my girls. They're young women now, so I should say that. So this is Sherry. This is Life Lessons Learned. You guys all know my mantra: knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. And the proof of any lesson is the application of it. So, which of these tips would you be implementing? Which things would you begin to communicate with your teen or preteen? And which ideas would you be looking to incorporate in your family now so that they can become adults that are not afraid of adulting, and adults that embrace that adulting because they're familiar with what it is that they'll be facing out there in the world and they're comfortable with it and they have techniques, skills, and solutions to any issues or concerns that may arise. I will talk to you guys on the next one. Please leave your comments below. Let me know what areas you may have improved in your family unit or areas that you would like to improve. And there is one thing that I didn't talk about at all. You'll see why in a second. And it's one that almost every parent in the world kind of avoid. So we avoid this topic altogether. And I'm no different than any of the other parents out there. I avoided this as much as, let me see, what can I say? I don't even know what kind of example to use in this case, but we do not talk to our kids, preteens, about sex, sex, the big sex word. And I actually did not with my girls, and neither did my mom with me. But well, one of my daughters did come to me with questions about that when she was in high school, and she just wanted to get some feedback from me as to some decisions that she had wanted to make. And again, we're not going to be able to control the decisions that our kids make, but we can let them know our expectations and what help them to ask those questions themselves. What are the consequences versus the rewards? What is the big picture? That kind of thing. So I did do that with her when she brought that subject up to me, and as a result of that, she decided not to become sexually active at that point in her life, because one of the rules that I did have, and we all are going to have different rules, but my thing was, if you're that much of an adult when it comes to that, then whatever um, situations arise from that, you would be the one to deal with that. So that meant for me, and I did explain this to her, that if she were to get, pregnant at an early age, that she would be, her and her partner would be the ones that would be taking care of the little one, meaning not in my household. So they would, have to get jobs and get their own place and that kind of thing. And as I said, I know some people be like, "What? You would have done that with a teen daughter?" But I had already put or placed the foundational information that I wanted my girls to have, and part of that was being responsible and being accountable for whatever decisions you make. And being accountable means you have to be accountable. So they understood that. So I didn't have any pregnancies. I didn't have any pregnancies. My daughter, I didn't have any issues with any of my girls getting pregnant in high school or anything like that. Um, I didn't have any issues with them like uh, dating people that were harmful to them, like physically, or didn't respect them or things like that, because I set that example for them as they were growing up. So they did have that. But, even I don't like to talk to my kids about sex. I don't even want to tell them I had it, and they know I had them. So I guess they figured that one out. This is Sherry. I would talk to you all later. Bye bye.